Hey everyone, it's Tara. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with my September wrap-up, finally. Halfway through October, but better late than never. I don't know, October just has gotten away from me. So I kind of forgot that I hadn't filmed my wrap-up yet. So here we are. Oh well. It is what it is. September was a pretty good month for me, especially considering the past few months where I didn't read as much. Like September, I got back into it and I ended up reading 11 books and 4,000 pages. So pretty happy with how September ended. And the lowest rating I gave was 3.5 stars. So not bad at all, if I do say so myself. So I'm going to do what I've been doing for the past few wrap-ups, where I'm just going to say title, author, star rating, and just a few quick thoughts. I will leave a list of all of the books I talk about down below, so if you want to look up a synopsis on Goodreads or whatever, you can. And if you have any questions or want to know more about any of these books, let me know in the comments down below. So let's get into it. So first up, we have The Lost Years by Mary Higgins Clark. I gave this 4 stars. I did this as a buddy read with my mom. This was just a very standard Mary Higgins Clark novel. Lots of potential suspects, lots of potential motives to why this person was killed. Very just typical, but I love Mary Higgins Clark. She tends to get 4-star ratings from me. I am really proud of myself though, because I had my suspicions pretty early on as to who did it, and I was right. And I never guess correctly with Mary Higgins Clark books, so I was pretty happy with myself for that one. Book number 2 was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I listened to this via audio and I ended up giving it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great, super relevant story. I'm not going to say a ton about this because this is a very popular, very loved on BookTube. I'm just going to say I think the hype is well worth it. I thought the characters were great. I really liked Star as a character. I think it tells a very important, relevant story, especially in today's world. So check it out. Then we have A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. I gave this 4 stars. This was not at all what I was expecting, which is totally on me because I don't think I ever read a synopsis of the book, so I didn't realize there was a little bit of a magical or supernatural element to it. There is, in case you're wondering. This book, I loved the setting. It's set in Victorian London, which I knew. I knew that it was a historical book. I just didn't realize there was a magical element to it. And it's set at a finishing school or boarding school in Victorian London, which I love. I love books set at schools. I also really enjoyed the friend group in this. It kind of gave me Mean Girl vibes, but I enjoyed it. And I really liked that the characters in this book acted their age. They acted like 16 or 17-year-old girls. I enjoyed that. So I am looking forward to continuing the series. I don't know what the series name is, but I will be continuing it. This was also my first Libba Bray book, and I'm pretty happy with it and look forward to reading more of her. Book number 4 was Blackberry Pie Murder by JoAnne Fluke. Book 18, maybe, in the Hannah Swenson series. I gave that 4 stars. I mean, we all know at this point how I feel about the Hannah Swenson series. I love it. I love all of the books in this series. I liked the kind of personal reason why Hannah is investigating this particular death. She finds herself kind of at the heart of the investigation, and I really, really liked that. At the heart of the investigation because of something that she did. So I liked that personal element to it, but we all know I love the Hannah Swenson series. Book 5 was Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell. This is a graphic novel, very popular here on BookTube as well. I gave it 4 stars. I think it was a great fall, quick read. It had super, super strong fall vibes. It made me just want to do all of the fall activities. I also really loved the friendship between Deja and Josiah. I thought it was really cute, and just the way that they kind of wanted to spend their last day of work together. It was sweet. I enjoyed it. It was cute. Book 6 was The Cuban Affair by Nelson Demille. I gave this 4 stars. Listened to this via audio. This was it was just a very standard, like, typical Nelson Demille book. It had another, like, sarcastic character, which I love the way Nelson DeMille writes his, like, main, like, protagonists. They tend to just be sarcastic, smartass males, and I love it. I think I've said this in other videos where, like, maybe it's because I married a sarcastic, smartass male, but I find them very enjoyable, and they, like, make me laugh out loud. So this just fit right up that alley. I also really enjoyed the main character, Mac. He is younger than a lot of Nelson DeMille's other main characters. Like, he was closer to my age. I think he was, like, 35, where a lot of Nelson DeMille's other main, main characters tend to be, like, middle-aged, like 50-ish. So I really liked that Mac was younger. He was a little bit more relatable than some of Nelson DeMille's other characters to me, because he's only, like, 3 years older than I am. So I enjoyed that. And I really love Nelson DeMille because he writes sarcastic, smartass characters, and I like that, apparently. Book 7 was Kindred by Octavia Butler. I gave this 4 stars. I read it for the Fall Into Reading Challenge. This was the group read for September. I just didn't read it at the same time that they read it, but I wanted to read it because it sounded interesting, and it was. I loved the time travel element of this. In this book, a character travels from 1970s California to, like, 1800s Maryland during the time of slavery. And I enjoyed that. I loved the historical aspect that you get, like, of her traveling back in time and seeing kind of, like, the day-to-day life on a plantation. I enjoyed that. It was tough to read at times. There was a lot of, like, not a lot, but it did get kind of graphic with, like, some of the violence that the slaves encountered on this plantation at times. So that was a little bit tough to read. That doesn't, like, bother me. It doesn't, like, adjust my star rating at all. But it is something that I want to put out there, that it does get somewhat descriptive in the violence at times. The thing that I think was the most, like, the reason that I didn't give it 5 stars is I felt like it didn't really explain enough to my liking how the time travel element worked. Like, why all of a sudden it started, and, like, kind of, like, those type of mechanics. And I wanted to know more about that. Like, I loved the story for what it was, and I loved that time travel element, but I wanted to know a little bit more about how it worked. So I didn't hate it by any means. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I just wish that I knew a little bit more of the mechanics of the time travel in the story. So book 8 was The Lost and Found Bookshop by Susan Wiggs. I gave this 3.5 stars. I listened to it via audio for the Book Sisters Book Club. I'm going to leave a link to the live show video down below, because I think the discussion that they had was really good and kind of explores the positives and negatives of this, but there are spoilers in it. I feel pretty similarly to those 3 ladies and a lot of the other people who read the book, in that I didn't hate the story. I thought it was fine. Like, I gave it 3.5 stars, but there is a lot going on in the book. There's a lot of, like, storylines and, like, plots and, like, subplots that Susan Wiggs throws into this book, and it's just not super focused. She just tries to do a lot, and if she had focused on one or even two of the storylines, I think it would have been a lot more enjoyable. I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine, but there's a lot going on. It did have really great characters, though. I really enjoyed the characters. I think a lot of the characters were really solid, so I enjoyed that aspect of it. Book 9 was Alex and Eliza by Melissa De La Cruz. I gave this 4 stars. Listened to this via audio. This is just a cute, like, YA historical fiction, like, romance book. It follows Alexander Hamilton and Eliza Schuyler as they meet and fall in love and become, the stars of Hamilton the musical. No, that is why I picked this book up, is because I watched Hamilton when it came out on Disney Plus and just wanted to know more about Alexander Hamilton, because I don't know a ton about that time of history in general, and what I do know kind of focuses more on George Washington and not as much on Alexander Hamilton. I thought it was cute. I mean, it doesn't delve into a lot of the historical aspect of it other than their relationship, and I think a lot of that is because it is just a YA kind of more romance focused, relationship focused, but I thought it was cute. It was a really quick listen. I enjoyed it. I will probably continue the series. I think it's a trilogy. Book 10 was Half the World by Jo Abercrombie. I gave this 4 stars. This is book 2 in the Shattered Seas trilogy. Something that I really love about this series in general, at least so far, is there's not a huge magic element, so you don't have to know an entire magic system. So you're literally just in a fantasy world, and that's really, it just makes it easier for me to follow, because fantasies tend to bog me down just in general. I read fantasies slower, and when there's a magical a magic system that I have to figure out as well, it gets a little bit overwhelming. So I love that I didn't have to worry about that. In this book, you are basically following a character from book 1 and a couple of other characters, and they're on this journey on the Shattered Sea, and they're traveling half the world, and it's a good time. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to finishing up the trilogy, hopefully by the end of the year. We shall see. The last book I read was The Night Swim by Megan Goldin. I gave this between 4.5 and 5 stars. I haven't decided yet what it is, but I really, really enjoyed it. There are so many things that I loved about this book. I loved the podcast element to it. It's not told in podcast form. You do get 3 different kind of perspectives. You do get elements of a podcast, but you also get the perspective of Rachel, who runs the podcast, and her kind of prepping for each of her what's the word I'm looking for? Each of her episodes. And you get Hannah, who is one of Rachel's listeners. So you kind of rotate between those 3 perspectives, and I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed that you kind of get two cases in one. You get the active trial that Rachel is reporting on her podcast, and then you actually get a case that happened 25 years ago, and whether or not that was an accident or if there's something more to it. I enjoyed that. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like Megan Goldin tackled a very tough topic, which is rape, and handled it very well. I will say it does go into some detail about that rapes. There is a rape scene in here, so trigger warnings for that. And the entire book is centered around a rape trial, so know that going into it. So those are the 11 books I read in September. Let me know down below if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. Let me know if you have a wrap up that I can watch, or if you have a blog, or whatever. Link it down below. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!